Welcome to Parent Coaches Unleashed, the podcast where we dive into the highs, lows, and did that really just happen moment of parenting teens and young adults. We're Carrie and Jessica, parent coaches, mythbusters, and occasional referees in the battle of hormones versus common sense.
If you've ever wondered, is this just happening to me? You're not alone. We are here to help you with real talk, expert advice, and hopefully a few laughs along the way. Need more support? We also offer private coaching, workshops, and speaking engagements because sometimes even parents don't have all the answers.
So continue listening as we tackle this parenting journey together.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of Parent Coaches Unleashed. Hi, Carrie.
Good morning. I'm so excited for today's episode.
So the theme of today's episode is unconventional ways that we can support our loved ones. After my dad passed, as a comfort to our family and for me looking for some closure, I went to multiple mediums to try and get some closure, find out what happened to him. And I had some crazy stories. One medium I remember wrote his name in his exact signature, like really, really crazy stuff. And I believe firmly in the abilities of people to channel our loved ones that we've lost. So now, fast forward a whole bunch of years, I'm living in Florida, and a friend of mine, Kelly, had a very good friend of hers, Linda. And Linda and I were acquaintances at the time. And Linda realized she had this ability to channel, and she was practicing on becoming a medium. Linda and I met at the park, and she said to me, there is someone standing by that tree over there, and he's dressed really well in a suit, and he's hiding a book. He's hiding something that he's reading that he doesn't want me to see, and I believe this is your dad. Now, what I hadn't told Linda at the time was that one of my mom's biggest regrets was that she buried my dad in his suit because she was afraid he was going to be so hot. And when we found my dad, he was actually reading a pornographic novel at the time, and my brother put it in his suit when we viewed him for the last time. So it all made perfect sense to me. And while Linda was doing this reading, this is what came through, and I shared this with her, and it was just like a crazy, crazy moment for me. So as Carrie and I discuss guests and how we can support our listeners and bring them new information and new experiences, Linda came to mind. So today's guest is Linda Heithaus, and whoever she is bringing with her onto our podcast. So Linda, we're so excited to have you with us. Welcome to our show, our podcast.
Thanks very much, Carrie and Jessica, for inviting me. I'm so excited to be here today to talk all about this very special gift. And Jessica, you and I have this beautiful history of,
Absolutely.
channeling your loved one. So I love you like you're part of my family. So
Thank you, Linda. I really appreciate that. And I truly appreciate your gift. So
thank
let's just
you.
start there. How did you know?
Okay. Well, if I was to go back to my childhood and think what was I going to be when I grew up, it was never a medium, and my path was not linear to get here. I actually shouldn't be a medium if you look at my story, which is something I love. I was born and raised in Vancouver, British Columbia, and I did not have any spiritual or any religious upbringing. My dad was an atheist, but my mom's side was religious, my grandparents. So we would kind of have these muted conversations about angels and things. But um, I then went and got a Bachelor of Science degree from university. I became a marine scientist. So I was trained to think very logically. And I think I know what happened to me was the day that my path shifted. I lost my dad young like you did. My dad was 55 and I was 25. He died from a very aggressive form of melanoma. When he died, I just felt like I was falling in a black hole with no bottom. I really actually saw that, felt that way. And my grief was compounded by no belief system of where did he go? I kept saying, where did you go? You were just here. You were just in our home. I could still feel him and like smell him, but I couldn't imagine that he was just gone forever, nowhere.
Mm.
About a month later, we were standing beside his grave. He died in November, and my family's tradition was always to put a Christmas wreath on our loved ones' graves, my grandparents. We were all standing beside his grave, and my dad used to have a gravel truck. And as we're standing there, there's a road by the cemetery. His truck drove by. He had sold it about a month before he died. His truck drove by, and my sister and my mom freak out, and they're like, it's a sign, it's a sign. And that's where I kinda went, "Okay, maybe," um, but I started to get more signs from him, and it really wasn't until I saw a medium myself that I it cracked me wide open to the, "Yes, okay, that was really my dad," and
Mm.
that was a very profound experience for me. I still didn't know I was a medium, and I had been connecting with the other side my entire life. I had no clue because this is portrayed, in Hollywood is very, hauntings, ghosts. I thought I would have to see somebody, walk into my kitchen or, I was also very afraid of it. I grew up watching Poltergeist and Freddy
Sure.
Krueger and I mean,
Looking back, when you said that you had it throughout your childhood, like,
he would make my lights flicker in my apartment, and
mhm,
I would ask him to do it, and he would do it. Um, but when I would go to bed at night and I would have my list of people I would talk to. They don't appear like a ghost. I'm using my third eye, so I can see them with my eyes open or my eyes closed. So I'm not using these eyes. I'm using my inner vision to
okay.
connect. But they look just like we do. Human clothing, hair. They'll wear their favorite. Women come with makeup. They wear their favorite shoes. Um, but I really didn't know until after I'd had my third child, my daughter, around age 41. We were at a park in Parkland with Jen and Kelly, and our mutual friend Pooja walked up to me, and she kind of knew that I could, maybe connect. And she said, "Linda, I just lost my dear friend to cancer. Can you see her?" And we're outside at this park, and I go, "No, I've never tried." I was as more I knew I could, but I didn't want to try. I was afraid of failure.
Mm.
And later that night, I came home and I was going to bed, and I saw this beautiful young girl in my bedroom, and it was very normal for me. It's automatic. It's innate. And she did a few things, and the next morning was Saturday, and so it was my day to sleep in. My husband left the room, got up with the kids, and I could see her. I was just laying there and I could see her, and she started showing me a bunch of things. She spiked a volleyball, she did the Macarena, she was dancing, she showed a locket. And so I got a piece of paper and I wrote everything down, and I texted Pooja. I said, "Can you please call me?" She called me, and all of that was correct.
Mm.
And her name is Danielle,
Really?
her friend that died. So I didn't talk to Pooja until the evening. So all day Danielle followed me around because Danielle was very insistent that I pass the messages on.
Mhm.
And I remember I was cleaning my bathroom, I was cleaning the sink, and so I can hear a spirit too. They talk completely like normal, like I do, even though they're not using a human voice, it's an energy voice. But I hear New York accents. I speak other languages. Um, Anyways, I was cleaning my sink and I heard 3 times, "I can't believe I got fucking bile duct cancer." When I told Pooja that, she said, "Oh my God," would literally say those exact words. She was so mad because bile duct cancer is very, very rare. She wanted Pooja and her whole family to know that she was still with them and okay. And that's really the day that I knew, and Pooja said, "This was so helpful. I really think you should explore this and help others." And that's really the start of my journey to become a medium.
That's incredible. I mean, I love these stories. I really feel like it is such a strong connection for the people that are still here that have lost loved ones. I find that it is so powerful, and I find so much comfort in it as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Most people or everybody that I see says the same thing. This is unlike any other experience. You're literally having a visit with your loved one in real time. You're hearing things from them. They're validating things. Many times in a reading, I'll say your loved one's having a pumpkin muffin, and my client will go, "Well, I had that for breakfast." Well, your dad was sitting with you and he was watching to prove that he's with you. There's so much healing that goes on in how my gift works. I mean, a lot of deaths are not are not, you know, peaceful. There's very tragic ways of passing. There's losing someone without saying goodbye. There's losing a child in a car accident. I've seen a lot of very, very sad and tragic stories, not from spirit, but just the people I work with.
Mhm.
I want to clarify that anything that I see on the other side, and that's why I call this, I see things through rose-colored glasses. I only channel through a space of love. It's the only thing I can download. So even if somebody passed through suicide, all I see is this. That is my symbol. I have symbols. So this is my symbol for suicide. I don't need to know the method that was used, or
Okay.
I just know I'll say your loved one is showing me that they passed through suicide. And then we get to the, oh my gosh, he's having a beer. He's having a Corona. Oh my God, that was his favorite beer. Well, he wants you to know he's drinking it now. So,
Yeah.
um,
So I want to just stop for 1 second and say for our listeners, because they can't see what Linda just did. But what Linda did was she crossed her arms in front
oh,
of her chest
yeah, like
as
this.
like a hug, like if she was hugging or putting an X, like that would be her
The
sign. I
sign.
just wanted to share. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
so how does a session with someone that's grieving a family member, how would a session unfold? Can you explain to us when someone comes to you? How does the session go?
So all I want to know is your first name. The less I know about someone, the better, which sounds counterintuitive. But as humans, we make decisions all day long, and I don't want to, I mean, I have to be prepared to see anything, and I don't want my judgment to go, well, there's a chicken that just walked in the room, that can't be true. But then, yes, my mom had a chicken farm growing up. Just the first name. My gift works in person and it works over Zoom. So I can work with anybody on the planet from anywhere on the planet. And the reason, and it works just as beautifully, your loved ones, if I was doing it right now, which we already had one of Jessica's brother came in, he's literally here in the room with me. We are all connected. Our souls all come from source or God. And usually I channel for about 90 minutes and I will describe what they're doing. A lot of times I get names. We just got Jimmy. I said to Jessica before we started, "Who is Jimmy?" And she said, "That's my dog's name." So I will see them. So I'll describe what they look like, but that's not the good stuff. The good stuff is those validating pieces, like they had a tattoo with, a dragonfly on their arm. Yes, oh my gosh, she had a tattoo like just like that right there. There's just so many incredible details I'm able to get. I can see, the brand of shoes they're wearing. I see colors. They'll do charades. So a lot of times, and I don't know if you can see this, but if somebody passed from a heart attack, this is my symbol for heart attack. They'll just raise their hand up and down. If somebody died from lung cancer, I'll hear that like raspy cough.
Mm.
So these are all pieces to validate about your loved one. I can hear them speak, and a lot of my clients, here, and I have a lot of clients in New York. They'll talk like coffee. They'll literally use that accent. I've heard British accents. I've spoken few words of Yiddish before, and it's correct. I also hear music. Music is a big part of how I work. Just last week, I was in a Zoom with a client, and I was channeling her dad, and he showed me the piano, and I could hear it's called Claire de Lune. It's a classical piece.
Mhm.
It is
Mhm.
so beautiful. So I see her dad at the piano. I'm hearing Claire de Lune, and then he has me look at the sheet of music to make sure I see that it's Claire de Lune. So I tell her this, and she says, "Yeah, my dad, yeah, he played piano, but it wasn't, it wasn't a huge thing." And then about 10 minutes later, I said, "What's your second daughter's name?" Because he wants to talk about his granddaughters. And she said, "Well, my youngest daughter's name is Claire." So instead of,
Oh,
okay,
no.
this
Yeah.
is the rose-colored glasses.
Right.
Instead of just saying I have a granddaughter named Claire, he played this incredibly beautiful piece of music to make me how I feel about how he feels about Claire is through this music. I it's just so beautiful. I don't even have words for it, and the love I get to feel. I also taste food. So just the other day, I tasted, actually, Joaquin. Joaquin Oliver is a very, very, very incredibly special guy for me. Joaquin passed away in the Parkland shooting in 2018, and I know, Carrie, you just mentioned your son was friends with him. He is a regular visitor to my life, and I was in Pilates a couple days ago, and I often see him in Pilates. It's very hard for me because my teacher she'll be, "Linda, you're not like,
Yeah.
what are you
She
doing?"
knows you're not fully present there. Like,
It's so hard because I go into that. I really live my life with straddled on two dimensions. I have one foot
Mhm.
in here on earth and one foot there in the non-physical or heaven all the time. And I don't even it's just automatic. But
so
he
was
was sitting
Joaquin taking Pilates with you?
he well, so his mom, Patricia, who I'm very close with, she takes Pilates in Parkland. So sometimes, and Joaquin, when he was physically here, he used to make fun of her. He still does that, but she loves it because this is authentic and true. So sometimes he'll come and, the ring in Pilates,
Yeah.
he'll pretend he's using it, but he's not using it correctly. And he'll say like, work it, like that. Um, so he was just sitting on the chair. I was doing some crazy plank or something, and he had a bowl of tortellini. I knew it was tortellini. I could taste it. It was with this incredible cheese sauce. Well, his parents are in Italy right now on vacation. I texted her when I came home. I said, "Hey, I saw Joaquin. By the way, he was eating the most delicious bowl of tortellini." She said, "Well, we had tortellini
Mhm.
last night for dinner."
Oh,
That's oh my gosh, the connections are just insane. It
yeah.
Yeah.
does it matter the time that has elapsed for someone's passing?
No, and I'm glad you asked that question because a lot of people will wait. They'll think, "Oh, my loved one needs time there. I can channel someone the next day." And I want to clarify that we all go to heaven. We all go to the same place. It does not matter. And this is not a religious belief. I will say that this is my spiritual belief, and we go to a beautiful place with no purgatory, no judgment. If you do bad things, you go and get a lot of healing before you can ascend. There's these levels in the afterlife, but we don't get stuck here. We don't hang out and haunt people. Yes, it can work the next day. It's just some people, their grief is so strong that they're not ready. And I've worked with people whose loved ones have died and they've come within 2 weeks because they just need to know. They need to know they're okay. They need to know. And I can work with very strong grief. It's how I was trained. Um, and I can get those pieces, but you have to be ready too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people are scared. They think they're going to hear something bad. People drown. They don't want to hear, "Oh my gosh, I struggled to breathe," or I tried to, save myself. Like, I would never ever hear that. Anything that spirit tells me is meant to help you. It is meant to make you feel better. And um the last podcast I did, I have Carolyn's permission to tell all of these stories I'm telling you ladies today. I have permission. I don't speak about anybody's story unless because it's personal.
Mhm.
Um, I just met Carolyn. She was one of the hosts of the podcast I did 2 weeks ago. Her husband passed through suicide and just so tragic and sad. And what he said to her in her reading was, "By the way, my dad was waiting for me in heaven." And I didn't know anything about him. I didn't know anything about his family, but she said, "Yes, his dad's passed." And I said, "They're eating the Cuban, what's it called? The pulled pork, the
I
I don't know.
I don't know either.
And she said, "Oh my God, he used to make those pork sandwiches every Christmas. Though that was his favorite thing." So instead of talking about, how he died,
Mhm.
he told her, "I walked into heaven, my dad was waiting for me, and we had sandwiches, my favorite food." I mean, isn't that a reframing, a beautiful way to reframe, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And that's what they do. They reframe everything. And I can tell you another Joaquin story. I mean, this is my favorite spirit story of all time. I think it's really so beautiful. So Joaquin's sister Andrea had a baby. Baby Mia was born 2 months ago. I knew she was expecting, and I knew it was going to be a girl. That's all I knew. And I saw him about a week later. He was just standing there and he's holding this beautiful little pink bundle, rocking her. And then the scene expanded and he was in this blush pink rose garden, just a field of roses. And I said, "Okay, do you want me to send Andrea roses from you?" And he said, "Yes, please." And I said, "Okay." And I did. And he was talking to this baby and he's telling her, "You are going to heal my family. You are taking a piece of me back with you. You're taking a piece of my heart and you're just going to be so loved and you're full of my light." And so I told Patricia, and for the rest of the day I was walking the dog and I kept hearing Mia, Mia. Finally, I text her and I said, "What is Mia? Is that they're Venezuelan, so they speak Spanish. Is that like some term I'm not understanding?" And Patricia says, "Darling, the baby's name is going to be Mia." And I almost fell over and he does this. And the rose-colored glasses is Mia was born at 31 weeks. She was fine. She just needed to be born early. Um, and there was about she I knew that I didn't know what day she was gonna be born, but Joaquin did, and at 5 in the morning, I woke up and I could see him standing beside my bed, and he had a countdown clock, and I said, "Is today the day?" He was on a water slide with this little girl, and I said, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "We're coming to Earth today, and we're having fun." Instead of I thought, "Oh my gosh, she's being born early. I hope she's okay." He completely reframed that, and that's the beauty
Mm.
of
That is
how they
amazing.
That's
right?
awesome.
That really
Um,
is.
do you think that the loved one who is no longer here with us,
Mhm.
if they were more of a spiritual person or believed, do you think that affects the after I have this challenge with my mom who passed, and I rarely ever hear from her, talk to her. Is that because she wasn't really a spiritual person? Or is she sending me, "You're fine. You need no signs." I don't know what
Carrie, I love this question, and I know exactly how to help you.
Okay,
So it does not matter if you were spiritual, you didn't believe. My dad was an atheist, and I see my dad all the time.
okay,
Um, so when we pass or transition, I call it transitioning. I
yeah,
don't even use the word death.
okay,
Because everybody I see is very alive. They're just in another realm or they're in the next room. And when we pass, we leave all of those. We leave our ego, we leave our anger, our judgments, we leave everything here. And our soul ascends, and a soul only exists in a loving, energetic vibration, a very, very high vibration state of energy.
okay,
And the thing about your mom is if you wanna connect with her, but you think, "Oh, she may not be sending
yeah,
me signs because she didn't believe," that's a block for you. That is
okay,
you have to change your way of thinking and elevate your thinking, and then you'll probably receive. She's
okay,
probably tried. That's the biggest advice I can tell you is if you wanna connect, you have to accept that they're trying or
okay.
they're there with you.
Hummingbirds.
Is that your sign?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
I I have a hummingbird story for you,
okay,
but I wanna go through I'll tell it. I was sitting with Patricia eating lunch, and I had all my Parkland bracelets on. I had at least 6 or 7, and I had a dragonfly come to our we were eating outside. I had a dragonfly come to the table, and it buzzed everybody, and it landed on those bracelets. And I said You cannot leave. I need a photo of this because no one will ever believe me. And I have a photo of it. Ladybugs,
Mm.
coins. Honestly, I found coins in my house in very strange places that I know I didn't put them there. Um, License plates, you can see either their first letter of their name, or, their birthday, or music. If they can mess with your electronics, they can play their favorite song, they can play your song that you identify them with. Um,
My girlfriend, who recently lost her husband, sees butterflies, monarch butterflies, and she said in places that you would never ever expect to see a butterfly.
right. And so what I see if I'm sitting with her in a reading is her husband would come and he literally has a handful of butterflies and he goes,
Oh.
and they all fly around her head, and I'll say, "How do you connect with butterflies?" Because your husband's sending them to you. They want you to know they're okay. That is the number one thing that comes through in a reading, and they'll tell you they won't just say, "Hey, I'm okay." They will validate it with something extremely specific. I have this other story of, her name is Jacqueline. Jacqueline passed from cancer. She was a freshman at UCF, just starting her life, and she was following me for 2 weeks before I ever met her mom or even knew her mom. I was trying to get a massage one day, and she busted into that massage and was cheerleading. Yeah, so I'm never alone. Jacqueline had cancer, and when we have cancer and we're passing, as many know, you can't eat the last month. So in her reading, Jacqueline, and she is a force. She slapped this big bowl of pot penny down, and she goes, "Do you see this?" And she went like that. I go, "Okay." She goes, "You tell my mom I'm eating penne." And I go, "Okay." But then she added red sauce. And I'm like, "Hold on, what sauce is that?" I'm like, "It's vodka. It's not a tomato. It's tomato, but it's vodka sauce. I can see it's a vodka sauce." So I go to her mom and her sister in the Zoom reading. I go, "She wants you to know she's eating penne vodka." And they're like, "Oh my God, that's her favorite
Yeah.
dish."
Oh.
So she told her mom she was okay because she could eat her favorite dish.
Linda, what do you do with the grief of the people in your readings? Because I imagine people who've lost a loved one are in pain. Does that affect you personally, and or does it affect the reading?
Yes, I wouldn't be human if I did not get sad about
Sure.
some of the things I saw, or hearing the stories, you know, when I'm with a client and I say, "Your loved one shows me that they were murdered." Um, or died very tragically. In that moment, and especially if it's a child, I mean, I have to be prepared for a 4-year-old spirit, for beautiful little 4-year-old girl to walk in the room and not get sad, but know that this woman here on my couch just has lost her daughter at 4. I have to be able to work to channel her for 90 minutes and not get sad. If I get sad, my energy state lowers and I can't connect. So
Mm.
I learned to put a bubble or a bridge around a mom's, let's use it, the mom who's lost a child as an example. Just a bubble around her grief. Because if I think, "Oh my gosh, I feel so bad for her. I don't know how she goes on." If I start thinking like that, it doesn't work. So what I do is look this way at her daughter and I'll say, "Okay, Kylie, what do you want to show your mom now? Your mom's really sad. What can we help? How can you and I help her? How can we work together?" That's how I work. And it's just one after the other. I mean, Kylie, um, came this her little chubby hand, she walked right up to me and I literally put my hand out and she dropped a bead into my hand. Kylie had a heart transplant when she was 9 months old, and she died at 4, and every time this kid was sick the whole time. She was the energy in the room. Her mom said she owned the room. She just was this force, and every time she would have a surgery at Joe DiMaggio, it was called Beads of Courage. Her mom has this necklace with all of her beads, so Kylie dropped a bead in my hand. That's just one of the
Mm.
many messages. Um, I I try not to think about it for the rest of the day, but it's impossible
Right.
because I am so empathic and so wanna help people that I do go there, but honestly, I've been doing some counseling and it's really helped me. Um,
What about babies? Because they haven't yet lived. How do you connect with babies, or do you?
I do. Many times people have to ask for a baby or a grandparent or your dad will come in holding and I'll say your dad's holding this baby. Yes, they haven't had life experience, but what they will do, which is so beautiful, is they will talk about the family you have now. Many times people have children after. I can use an example. This little baby died in, the NICU, but he came. I think he appeared at like 2 or 3 and he was wearing cowboy boots and a cowboy hat. And I said, "What's with the cowboy boots and the cowboy hat?" And my client said, "Well, I decorated my other son's room as cowboys
Mm.
for he loves cowboys." So his brother validated. One time I had a little child sprinkle sand and the mom said, "Oh my gosh, I take my other children to the beach every weekend." So they will more talk about the family and validate that they're still, watching them, love them. I've channeled children who were nonverbal in this life. They had disability or differently abled, you know, but now they can talk and they want to tell their mom, "Thank you for taking care of me. Thank you for loving me. You took me to the park and got me a red balloon every single Friday, and I couldn't thank you then, but they'll come holding." I'm like, "How do you connect with the red balloon?" And she said, "I used to get her balloon every Friday at the park."
Mm.
Um, yeah.
That's
I
amazing. So, what do you do outside of a session? Like, how do you capture all of your stories? Are you writing them down? Are you working on projects, that you want to tell us about? Like, what else in addition to a session?
So a lot of my repeat spirits who visit me regularly, like Joaquin, I have this incredible boy named Jack, his mom Brady. So I will text the moms, "Hey, Jack's here, and he's wearing his Birkenstocks," and Brady will say, "Oh my gosh, I'm wearing them right now too." She lives in Delray. So a lot of that communication is via text. I wish I had time to write them all down, on paper. A lot of
Mhm.
them are in here. But I'm writing a book. Joaquin inspired me to write a book. I really wanted to tell his story because I have 8 years of Joaquin stories and I they're just fun. He's in my face, he's demanding.
Yeah.
Patricia said he and I are like partners in crime. Like our mission is to spoil her, and that's what we do.
Mm.
So I'm writing a book. It's going to be a collection of all of my spirit stories and my story. My bumpy path to getting here. There was just a lot of obstacles I had to get through to become comfortable and to let go of fear and conditioning. I'm also start launching a podcast with my friend Julie Guy. If you're local to South Florida, she's on 101.5 Light FM. She and I are going to be talking about music and mediumship. It's going to be called Rose Colored Radio Mediumship Mixtapes.
Yeah.
I'm also just started telling more stories on social media, on Instagram. It's Rose Colored Medium, and yeah,
We
I'm
look
just
forward
it's
That's exciting,
it
and we look forward to listening
thank
to
you.
that. Do
Thank
you
you.
do you come across, naysayers, and how do you handle that if you do?
Yes, a skeptic, somebody that doesn't believe. Well, they don't ever tell me. They come to test me.
Mm.
They're hopeful, but they're scared or they don't believe. And it's pretty clear soon after I start channeling that someone doesn't believe because they're very closed. So a reading is a three-way connection. Jessica, if you come, I'm connecting with you and your loved ones. If you don't believe and you're very closed, it's going to be that much harder to download the messages accurately, even though I can. And I've worked with many people, and everybody has left going, "Oh my gosh, I believe now." But it's just slower. People will bring items with them and they'll wait for me to, they'll bring this random, like a spoon or something, and they'll have it in their pocket. And they wait a whole hour for me to say, I keep seeing a spoon. What's with the spoon? And then they'll take it out and I'll go, oh, okay. That's why it's been slow for an hour because they're not as open as I would hope for them to be, but it's okay. I always say I'm not here to change someone's beliefs, and I don't expect people to understand my reality of how this is my life.
Hmm.
How does your family handle, um, your gifts, right? Like,
My husband is very grateful that I embrace this because I used to wake up in the middle of the night and scream because there was always someone, I'd wake up and open my eyes and there's someone standing beside my bed, and not in a scary way, just I can see in such great detail. Now I'm like, "Okay, I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you for coming, but I wanna go back to sleep." He knows when he just knows. Like, he'll walk in the bedroom if I'm talking to someone, and he'll go, "Oh, I'll come back," because I have this look on my face. But my husband's a scientist too, and how I would explain it to him in the beginning, because I felt like I needed to prove it to him, also to myself, I would use statistics. I would say, "If you had to guess someone's name and get it right on the first try, statistically, what would that be? Or if you had to guess someone's birthday, the month and day and get it correct statistically." Well, you know what? In a reading, I did that. And so he said, "Linda, you don't have to prove it to me. I believe you." But it was me becoming comfortable with it too. I mean, this is definitely there was a learning curve, and it's like learning a whole new language. I was just really scared of being judged or, she's crazy. There are people in the psychic world that do variations on this work. And a lot of times people will come and tell me horror stories of things they've been told. So I understand why I have, in this line of work, a bad reputation. I heard a story online of a woman who lost her daughter in a car accident, and a medium told her daughter was lost in the netherworld and didn't know how to cross. This woman was going to the accident scene for a month to try and catch a glimpse of her.
That's
That is
horrible.
so awful and predatory. What that medium is doing is getting her to come back to keep, like, "Oh, she's lost, let me help her."
And in that state of grief, you believe anything, any connection that you have. That's awful.
Or I have a wonderful mentor, her name is Shirley Ryan. I took 36 weeks spirituality training classes. Each class was different. The scientist in me really wanted to understand what I was experiencing. Her classes were really paramount for my gift unfolding in this loving, healing way. Um, because she taught me that that is what the afterlife is. And a lot of people don't think that way, or they'll think, "Oh, my loved one died young, they're sad." And so, these sad messages come through. "Oh, your son is sad. He misses you. He wants to come back." That's not helping the person you're, sitting with. So that was extremely important to me to be trained properly.
Sure. Do you
Yeah.
see, any of your children with the gift? Do you see any glimpses?
So all children can see and hear spirit. We kind of grow out of it around 5 or 6. Because no one really talks about. I've worked with families whose children are very spiritual, but they're scared, and so I'll go and sit with them, and I love breaking the myths, like, there's nothing bad in your bedroom, this is your grandma, and you're just picking up her energy, here's things you can do to help or shut yourself off, but they're never gonna hurt you. This
I'm sorry to interrupt, but
That's okay.
you said that and you brought up a memory for me because my nephew, who is now 7, we are convinced that he sees people who have passed because he would come home from school and tell my sister, her mother-in-law had passed when maybe he was 2, and he would
Mhm.
from school and say, "Oh, Nana was on the bus with me today." And you
Mm.
look at him like that's a sounds crazy, but we believe because we've lost so many loved ones in our life, we believe this is a connection to them. And then one day he said to my sister, "Oh, are you sad about Uncle Ryan? You don't have to worry. He's made a lot of friends." And what you say about children, I think part of their innocence and being so open, it feels real. It feels like it is absolutely true.
Yes, and innocence is a wonderful word. They have no social conditioning, Yet, oh, if your nephew is talking to his relatives, absolutely believe him.
Yeah.
And it's kind of can be touchy with kids. Like you don't want to scare them, you
Right.
know. But it's not scary for them, but their friends may go, "Oh my gosh, there's a ghost in your room." It can become, scary if they talk about it. That's another reason that I really want to talk about this gift is to demystify it and what it is and what mediumship is and what it's not is almost as important as the stories. And I know a lot of people have this gift like I do, but they're so scared of it. And I was too. I was terrified. And I really had to unlearn and get rid of all my fear. You can't be scared. Again, energy levels. That's a lower vibration, being
Mhm.
scared. I had a lot of inner work to do and barriers to break down to really be all in.
Right.
And then it's like learning a new language, the symbols, your loved one's holding an orange. Well, okay. Yeah, I don't know. They liked fruit. Well, orange to me now is California. So, um, it's just such a quick the spirit is they're very fast. So, there's 3 or 4 things that can come through in a split second that I have to catch, and so that's why they use symbols a lot of the time.
If you are doing a reading and people don't know what connection you're trying to make, like, does it ever
Oh,
happen where they show you something and they're like, "Oh, that doesn't mean anything to me." And
yes,
then
yes, so I record every session because you get so much, and you could have your neighbor's dad walk in the room and not recognize him because 'cause you're not expecting your neighbor's or your friend's dad to come into the reading. And so people will text me the next day and say, "Oh my gosh, I know what you mean now. It makes sense." Or my daughter listened to the recording and said, "Mom, I can't believe you didn't catch the key lime pie. That was her favorite dish."
right.
Yes, I know what I'm seeing, and sometimes I just have to go, "Okay, we'll come back to that. Let's move on." I know, and it's a miss, but and sometimes I'm misinterpreting the message. I mean, there's many different ways a spirit can deliver a message.
And then what do you do with the spirits that visit you and you have no idea who they are?
This is a good one, and that happens to me all the time. If I lay down to take a nap, I will always, before I fall asleep, see somebody. It's picture yourself in a grocery store and you've just walked around the corner and there's a person standing there. Hi, who are you? Tell me about yourself. You interview them. Um, you know, It's no different than what
That's
you
interesting.
and
Yeah.
Carrie are doing to me, right? But it's much quicker. I'll hear Paul, and then I'll see, work boots or, paint or, I could be taken to, Australia, it's just and so I'll think, "Okay, this is Paul is important," and, I kinda make this checklist, but I have so many clients now that it's almost impossible to keep track. You
Right.
know, they will show up days before a reading just to kind of pop in and say very often I'll hear, "My mom's gonna see you in 2 weeks." They're they're excited they see us suffering here, they see us missing them, and they
Mhm.
wanna help. That's really the goal. It could be something simple as people get tied to clothing or they have to go and clean out their mom's apartment and they don't want to get rid of anything. She'll come with a box of her clothes and say, "Please donate this. I'm not attached to my scarves. I know they remind you, but I'm always with you. I'm always in your heart." And so people leave and that was the one message they needed to hear to feel lighter. Or or a lot of times people will go, "We don't know what to do with the ashes." Well, we
Um,
split them up. So my brother has some, my sister has some, and we feel like it's not right to split them. Spirit, they do not care. They just whatever you want to do with them to make you feel connected, or if you want to plant them in your garden, do it. Sprinkle them in the ocean. That is not them. That's just our physical remains, and we're not attached to it. But most people keep their ashes in the home, and that's beautiful too.
All right. So, To end this episode, if Linda, you would play along, I'm
Mhm.
just going to read a few statements, but we'd like to hear from you myth versus reality.
Okay.
What you think of these statements. So, the first one, myth or reality. Mediums can predict exactly when or how someone will die.
No. Myth. Completely false. And anybody that tells you that is not being truthful.
All right. You have to be very spiritual or religious for a medium session to work.
Another myth. You, and you can be totally closed and not believe, and your loved ones still want to connect with you. There's no judgment.
Okay. Every message a medium gives comes directly from the deceased person.
That is both myth and reality. Um, Many times I'm connecting with, but also your spirit guides or your team or my spirit guides are giving messages for you. So it's Jessica, you're gonna love this. They told me that a reading is much like a Broadway show. There's a producer, there's a director. Somebody comes on my stage, then the next person. Um, so
That
I loved that analogy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
All right. Messages from the other side are always dramatic or life changing.
Not always, but they can be. You are going to receive whatever you're meant to hear. Messages, they're tailored to you at this point in your life, what you need to hear. But we also have a lot of fun. We laugh. Your loved one's personality is going to shine through. If they were a prankster, jokester, they're going to joke with me. If they were larger than life, I'm going to be like, "Oh my gosh, he's so loud." Um, yeah.
So
So
nice.
sometimes we get these little tiny details too.
Okay. And then in final one, it's dangerous to work with a medium if you're grieving.
Myth. But it is dangerous to work with a medium who is not trained and who's going to make you feel worse.
Mm.
So my advice is do your research. If you want to book a session, don't be afraid to ask them, "Hey, how do you work? What can I expect? Do you ever ask them, do you ever hear anything bad?" If they say yes, please don't use them. No medium should ever hear anything bad.
Well, that is a great segue into if our listeners would like to book a session with you, how do they go about doing that?
That's a great question. My website, I don't know if you'll put it in.
Yep, it will be in our show
Does it
notes, but
go? Okay, it's my full name, lindaheithaus.com. There's a button on there to request a session. Some people do DM me on Instagram for readings.
okay, we can put that
Some
on
people
our
yeah.
notes
Some
too.
people, if my phone number is also on my website, some people
Okay,
text me, some people call. They want to do what I just explained. They want to ask, "What can I expect? How do you work?"
okay.
Mhm.
Well, Linda, thank you so much, so much for being with us today. I really enjoyed our session. I hope you enjoyed it as well. I hope our listeners enjoy it. And I think this is, for me, I know that I get so much peace knowing that my loved ones are safe. And I just really appreciate you shedding some light on what it is a medium does and how it can help people who are grieving. So thank you for
Fabulous.
being with us. We wish you so much luck with all of your upcoming endeavors, your book, your podcast. If you would like to contact us, please do so at info@parentcoachesunleashed.com. And please like, listen, and share this episode with someone who you think would benefit from it. Take care, everybody. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Parent Coaches Unleashed with Carrie and Jessica. Together, we can raise the next generation of independent, capable, and compassionate young adults.
We encourage you to send us an email with questions and feedback to info@parentcoachesunleashed.com. Please remember, you are not alone on this parenting journey.